So, in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about where to work from and the pros and the cons of each. So, I have experience with all three of the options, which are mobile, working from home, and also renting a treatment room. So I'm going to break down in this video the pros and the cons of each, and hopefully it will help you decide which is best for your business. So let's start with mobile. So this means taking your treatment couch and working remotely. So you can work wherever you want to, whether this is in someone's garden, someone's living room, wherever they've got the space for you to set up and work from. So I did this probably for a couple of years when I first started out. I was living at home with my mum, and I decided that I wanted to do some massage on the side of another job that I had. So it was a perfect way for me to make some extra income. I would say the pros of doing this would be the fact that you don't have to pay any rent. You can choose the hours that you work, so you can be quite flexible. Another pro would probably be the fact that the client doesn't actually have to leave their home. So this can work quite well for them. And I find even now a lot of people ask if I do mobile because they don't have to leave the comfort of their house or wherever they live, and you're doing the work by going to them. So that is probably a pro for the client, not necessarily you, but it is another pro. For me, there was quite a lot of cons on this option. So obviously the petrol that it might cost to drive around. Sometimes I would get clients that would ask me to go there that didn't live too locally, so I would have to drive obviously there and back, which cost me petrol. Also time efficiency. I just didn't feel that the time was kind of worth my while, if you like. By the time I got there and set up my bed, I would find that the client would sometimes talk to me before the treatment started. Obviously, having to find the space for me to set up, that took time. And then also after the treatment, obviously I had to like pack away, and then sometimes again the client would be talking to me at the end, and I'd be trying to think, right, I've got to go to my next client. Or if I didn't, there wasn't always that kind of, right, I've got someone literally waiting for me now, I need to go. I did struggle with that on, leaving the client's house afterwards. So time efficiency was quite a big con for me. So the other thing I would say that is a con is probably safety. Now, obviously, you need to be careful in general with anyone that has a massage with you. But I used to find sometimes going to people's houses a little bit daunting if I didn't know them. And looking back, I kind of wish that I hadn't gone into some situations, because you don't know whose house you're going to. You don't know, you don't know the family. You don't necessarily know what you're walking into. So I would just say, if you are doing mobile, just make sure that you've got some sort of backup, whether that is, someone's waiting for you outside, or you're going to call someone as soon as you leave. Just make sure that someone knows the address that you're at, and that, yeah, your safety is a priority. So I would say that is something to consider. Another con I would say is probably the environment control. So I used to find that quite difficult if someone, say, had children or maybe pets, or they might not have had the space for me to work from. So I feel like environment control was quite a big factor for me. So yeah, obviously it's important that you've got enough space to work from. And I went into a couple of situations where their living room was so small and I could just about walk around the couch. And then, yeah, things like noise levels and stuff, which is obviously out of your control if you're going into someone's home. So I guess that is not necessarily your responsibility. That would be down to the client. But I just used to find that the ambience wasn't always what I wanted, and like I say, sometimes the space that I had to work from wasn't always ideal. So the second thing I'm going to talk to you about is a rented treatment room. So let's talk about the pros and cons of this. I have done this probably for the most amount of years. So I don't currently rent at the moment, but I have rented in the past lots of times. So let's start with the pros of this. So you have the control of the environment. So you can set this up to exactly how you want. So the ambience that you want, the lighting that you want. Obviously, I really enjoy it making a really nice ambience. So low lighting, candles, nice music, beautiful incense, things that are going to make the client feel relaxed and comfortable. Also warmth of the room. So for example, I have a heater in there. I'd always make sure that there was like a radiator for the winter. And also in the summer, it's important as well because it can get really hot in some spaces. So I used to quite like if there was an aircon unit or somewhere that I could put a fan. So I would always make sure that the temperature of the room was adequate. The pro would be the fact that you can advertise and market to one specific place. So people know where you work from, they can get used to coming to a certain place, and yeah, it's almost like your little sanctuary, if you like. So I feel that that is another big pro for renting a space. Another massive pro that I found renting a treatment room is the fact that it gets you out. So rather than working from home, it gets you out of your living environment and it takes you to work. So you've got that separation between home life and work, which is something that I really recommend. So yeah, for me, that is a massive, massive pro. Okay, so let's talk about some cons of this. So the first thing I would say is rent. So the fact that you have to pay a certain amount for the room, and that can be quite expensive at times. Another reason could be landlord. It depends on who you have renting the room out to you. I've had some experiences where people have been absolutely amazing and they've done things that I've kind of, asked of them. But I've had other landlords that maybe haven't been as nice and they've upped my rent at some points. They haven't taken good care of the room. So, things like leaks in the room or drafts, or I had a broken window once and it took weeks to repair. So there's certain factors that you've got to think about with regards to who is renting it from, but that can sometimes just come with a bit of a gamble. Another con could be the fact of where your treatment room is based. So if it's too far away for some clients, they might not necessarily be able to make it to you. They may not be able to drive. They may not live in the town or area that you're going to be renting from. So I feel that that is another big factor. That's something to take into consideration if you decide to rent a room, is if you have a client base already or you have people that are interested in massages with you and they live in a certain area but you're looking at a treatment room in another area, then that could be a con for you. Another con that I found working from a rented space is sometimes noise levels. So for example, if you're renting somewhere that is in a salon, for example, I've worked in a hairdresser's before and I've rented a space at the back of the salon. Sometimes I'd be able to hear the hair dryers, people laughing and talking. Sometimes I would have people working in the room directly next to me and I would be able to hear them really loudly. So that used to bother me quite a lot, or especially if I was doing a relaxation massage. I used to think that the ambience wasn't quite what I wanted. So sometimes that can be taken out of your control if you're renting a space that has other people working there, and especially if they're doing things like beauty or hairdressing where they're going to be talking a lot. that is definitely something to consider. So the last topic I want to talk to you about is working from home. So whether this is a garden room, a converted garage, or perhaps a spare room that you have in your home. So this obviously isn't feasible for everyone, but if you do have the space, this can be a great option. I personally am doing this at the moment. So let me run you through a few pros and cons of it. So the first pro for me would be the fact that there's no rent to pay. So I save a lot of money on expenses. That is a massive, massive factor for me. The fact that you can control your environment again is another massive thing. So yeah, low lighting, the ambience that you're creating, the smells, you can create the noise level to an extent. Obviously things like outside influences, so maybe like a lawnmower going off or the doorbell ringing or something like that, you might not be able to control. But I feel that with regards to other people working around you, you can tend to control that a little bit better. Another pro would be the fact that you don't have to travel. So especially in the winter months, it's great the fact that you don't have to leave your home. So this can save on petrol, it can save a lot of time and effort traveling to and from work. So that's another massive pro. Another thing that I really enjoy working from home is the fact that I can start things like dinner, I can do house chores in between clients. So I really can sort of do things that need to be done at home whilst I'm working to an extent. So another pro would be that you don't have a landlord that you have to answer to. Especially if you own your own home, then that's completely down to you. Obviously, if you private rent, then this might be a little bit different. You may have to ask permission to work from home, but in general, you don't have someone that you have to answer to. Another pro that I can think of is that you don't have to, say, lock up after a shift. So if you finish late at night, you're already at home, you don't have to worry about locking up a salon or a space. Can sometimes be a little bit unsafe. So I think for safety reasons, I do enjoy working from home. So on the flip side of this, I would say you need to be careful letting people know your home address. So I think it's important that if you don't get a good vibe from somebody, or say perhaps someone calls and you're a bit unsure, then don't book them in, would be my advice. So there is that aspect that people can know where you live. So that is a massive thing to consider. But personally, I feel that if you have the separation between your home and your workspace, then there's no problem. Yeah, especially if you have like a garden room, I think that's probably the best option working from home, because they don't necessarily have to go through your home. They can maybe go through like a side gate or something. So that separation between your home and working is still there. Something to consider would probably be maybe a Ring doorbell or some CCTV, so that people are aware that they are on camera or they are being watched, if you like, when they come in and out. Obviously you can't have cameras in the treatment room, but this can be something that you could have outside. Another con that I tend to find working from home is the fact that you don't always have that separation between your home life and your work. So because it's where you live, sometimes that can be difficult because you're not leaving your house to go to work. So I do feel that that is a massive, massive con. And yeah, sometimes you can get a bit of cabin fever because, like I say, you're working from home, you're living at home, and it's just sometimes a little bit too much. Another con I would say is possibly the social side of maybe working somewhere. You don't have people walking down the corridor that you can talk to, or maybe a colleague that you're working alongside. So that can sometimes be a con, I would say. But obviously you do have the social side of your client. So for me, that's not a problem. But for some people, they enjoy working with others. And yeah, like I say, that social aspect. So I hope you found this video useful with all the pros and cons there. If you have any questions for me, please put them in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. If you could like and subscribe to my channel, I would be so grateful. And don't forget that I will be posting a video each week on different topics. So I will see you next time.